Welcome home, daddies. Welcome home, daddies. Welcome home,
Daddies. Oh, how I have missed you. I'm sure you have missed me too, based off of last week's podcast. I felt the love. I felt like you missed me. I felt like you wanted me back. No, but really, appreciate y'all. I miss y'all. And don't you worry. Not only am I back, but I kicked out the ass and I brought in your favorite co-host, Mr. Aaron Zitch. How we doing, Aaron?
What's up, daddies? I'm great. Glad to be back. It's always fun to be on the podcast, so glad to be here.
What was it like to get the love that you did last week?
Well, podcast went well, but as was mentioned in the chat, the podcast curse is real, and we'll get back into that. So I'm hoping that there's a stipulation in the podcast curse that means if you're on 2 times in a row, you don't lose twice in a row, but that's yet to be tested.
Sure. I mean, I feel like the podcast curse only works for guests, and I would say at this point you're not quite a guest anymore.
Okay. Well, then let's make this official then, and then we'll nail it down this week. So that means good vibes coming my way.
Love it. All right. Well, let's try to get into it quick this week. Not only, I mean, we could start in a lot of different directions, especially how last night went. But we're just going to start because we unfortunately do still have a team in our league sitting at 0-5. Unfortunate, you would say that this team has a lot of hope and promise, and even last night, you kind of expected him to maybe even pull off an upset. What are your thoughts on Room 40?
Man, Room 40. I have had hope in you this entire time. I even had hope last night. I thought Josh Jacobs was going to do it for you. I was really looking forward to your first win. I look at this team on paper, and I cannot believe that it's 0-5. And I think I said this last week, too. He has the pieces. He has the running back room. Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Alvin Kamara, and Kyren Williams. With Jeff Wilson already coming off IR, and with Achane being injured this week. So he has 5 quality starting running backs. There's no reason he should be 0-5. So 0-5 daddy, but my God, I think he's going to make a run.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, a lot of talent, and when you're in a 14-person league, it's hard to feel like you have running backs that are hard to feel like you have running backs. There's so many teams in the league that struggle for that running back position. Room 40 definitely does not, and then you would assume that maybe his wide receiver position would be a weak point, and I wouldn't even say that's truth either. They've just struggled to put a full week together. I guess it goes to show that this was definitely the year for the no running back draft, right?
Yeah, I mean, so 0 running back's always a strategy. It's a strategy I don't love. But yeah, you're right. He hasn't been able to put together a full week. He's had great performances, but when he does have great performances, the other team has a better performance. So this was his week to win against the Rats. But I do think that he's going to start putting them together.
Do you know what I think would be the most helpful for Room 40 at this point?
What's that?
I think if he changed rooms.
Ooh, Room 41? Room 69?
I don't know. But not only do we have an 0-5 team, we do not have a 5-0 team this week. Unfortunately, we saw 2 5-0 teams fall to their demise harder than maybe the planes on 9/11.
Brutal. Yeah, the Twin Towers have fallen. Victorville and the TaylorMade have gone down the drain. So Twin Towers are down. This is, and I will say too, both matchups were incredibly close this week too. I loved having everyone chime in on Monday night about the matchup. That's the energy I want from this group. I am heartbroken and I am. I wanted to be the first 5-0 daddy. I really thought I was going to do it. I went into Monday night unbelievably confident that I was going to do it. But that goes to show, don't get your hopes up. Don't get overconfident, because anything can happen in this league. And Chicago Dogs put it down on me. So I'm gonna keep the train rolling. I'm gonna roll right into my Malort moment, and you all know who it is, and it's the man who I hate the most this week, and that's Jordan Love. And I wanna just go quickly on a little bit of a rant on Jordan Love. So I needed Jordan Love to outscore Romeo Dobbs by 7 points to win. And Romeo Dobbs put up one catch for 4 yards. That's 0.9 points in our league. And Jordan Love, time and time again, got me this close and threw a pick. And this close and threw a pick. And I looked it up. I looked up his NFL and his college career stats, and there's only been one other game where he ever threw 3 picks in a game. So
when was that?
In college, his sophomore, junior year. So this was a historically awful day for Jordan Love. So really, I just want us all to take a moment and hate a little bit on Jordan Love. So I've taken some time to find a couple things that will hopefully make you guys hate him just as much as me. Jordan Love's girlfriend, Ronika Stone, offered up some details that instead of using the word ticklish to describe himself, Jordan Love says that he gets silly body. He gets silly body, calling him ticklish. Might be the coolest thing he's done, but in 2019 he was arrested for marijuana possession. So he's a criminal. 2020 draft class, he was rated as the 5th best quarterback coming out of that draft class. So let me talk about those quarterbacks. We've got Joe Burrow, Tua, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert. Cool, top 4. Looks great. Next quarterbacks after that are Jacob Eason, James Morgan, Jake Fromm, Jake Luton, Cole McDonald, Ben DiNucci, Tommy Stevens, and Nate Stanley. So I see 2 groups of quarterbacks there. I see a front 4, and I see a back 8, and I'm pretty sure Jordan Love's the 5th best quarterback, but he's not close to that top 4. In Jordan Love's first week as a starter, he didn't buy his own mom tickets. Justin Fields bought his mom's tickets for his first game at the 50-yard line. So he hates his family, too. And I will say, I have never seen or heard of Jordan Love publicly coming out against the Taliban, speaking of 9/11, or even terrorism in general, which is a little bit suspicious that Jordan Love's never done that. So really, in conclusion with all this, I just got to say, Jordan Love sold when he had the most on the line. And I'm really excited for some of you because you can catch him on the waiver wires this week.
Gosh. Well, I was going to suggest maybe a name change for you to, I do love the TaylorMade, although it is confusing with a Taylor in our league. But I was maybe going to suggest a name change to Taylor Hate.
Ooh, there's a lot of
based off of your feelings.
There's a lot of
hate. So Jordan Hate instead of Jordan Love might have worked for you. But yeah, like you said, he's probably going to the waiver wire, and I don't blame you. And I do see Kyler Murray on, your IR spot, maybe a couple more weeks before he gets playing. But I feel, Jordan Love, that's a tough beat for you and Vic last night. And I even feel maybe a little worse for you. Vic's loss was kind of sealed, I feel like Sunday afternoon. I don't know if there was anyone in a Sunday night game for either one of those teams. So we had that long discussion yesterday during the game. I feel like there was a lot of guys active during that text group. And then after the game was over at 11:27, Victor said, "Wait, holy shit." And then went on to respond, "Brandon beat Aaron, porn star Jimmy." No one responded again that night. Just 3 texts in a row from Victor, which might be the most he's ever texted in our group. No comment on how he lost by 0.2 points. Just attacking you.
No. I deserved it because I'm the one that brought up that Vic lost on Sunday night because Brock Purdy needed to put up 26 or so to beat him, and he did. So it was well deserved and it was a good comeback. So I salute you, Vic. We both went down and it was a rough week. But yeah, Brock Purdy put him in his place right before he got pulled from the game. So
Oh, okay, I do remember that.
I deserved the comments. I can't speak to the Jimmy porn star comment, but I think I deserved the other one.
I love it, and I love, yeah. I just, Vic's a silent killer. He probably reads all the messages, although we assume he doesn't, and came out with some heat late at night that no one responded to.
I love it.
So yeah,
Deserved.
we appreciate it. Well, I don't have near the stats that you do, but yeah, my Malort moment left a bad taste in my mouth. I can't even talk right. JT. Jonathan Taylor came back for the Colts this week. I don't know what the reports exactly said on the expected workload. I know he came back to practice on Thursday, so probably not a huge thing. But was he really unable to perform, or was he just on the list? We may never know. But he came back, looked pretty good, had a couple good carries. I even threw him in a big parlay, and that was the only leg that lost, unfortunately for me, for him scoring a touchdown. So, I don't know. He got a big extension, so surely they're going to use him more effectively the next couple of weeks, the rest of the season. But Zach Moss looked too good to take off the field. And while Zach Moss did have a great game, like I said, I'm not a huge Colts fan myself. Can respect them, but he's not my perfect pour. Didn't leave the greatest taste in my mouth. Maybe if he was on my team, he would have. But Brock Purdy's not on my team either, and you mentioned him earlier in Victor's game. Brock Purdy has looked incredible this year, and he looked great on Sunday night. Finally, a great Sunday night game that we got to watch. He's the number 7 quarterback on the year, and the number 7 quarterback in Week 5 as well. He's looked like a legit threat. There's so many talks about the San Francisco offense, San Francisco team, that their defense, is legit. They're, obviously they have CMC, they have some threats in the wide receiver position, but what is going to happen with Brock Purdy? Can Mr. Irrelevant really be relevant? Can he be someone that is actually going to be dominant in teams and really make this 49ers team elite? And I don't see any reason why that's not the case right now. I believe he's 8-0 as far as touchdown to interception ratio. So looked incredible. He's performing in fantasy. He's looked great. So he's one of the few players or quarterbacks at least, that look great, that is performing well, that looks good into the eyes in the actual NFL team, and looks great on a fantasy team. So props to whoever in our league has him.
Yeah,
and
E-Dog's got him.
Congrats to Purdy.
Yeah,
E-Dog,
and he is 8-0 as a starter in the NFL. So I mean, maybe if he won 2 or 3 games, maybe that's a fluke. But to start his career winning 8 games is electric. It's the 3rd longest streak in the NFL history. So
didn't Jimmy G start 5-0?
Jimmy G is 4th. So to give you the list real quick, Ben Roethlisberger started 15-0. Mike Tomczak with the Bears in 86, 10, and then Brock Purdy is 8, and then a couple guys tied at 7, one of them being Jimmy G. So yeah, I mean, since it's been Brock Purdy's team, he's been killing it. So yeah, and my perfect pour, I commented on it a little bit in the last pod, but Jamar Chase is always open. If you saw his tweet, he posted 7-11 on Twitter. So he's always open. 19 targets, 15 receptions, 3 touchdowns, and Commish, you benefited from all of it. So I'm really excited to see that the Bengals kind of hit their stride, but it took just throwing only to Jamar Chase to really get there, and I think that should be the game plan moving forward. So I was really excited to see that he went off, and I'm really glad that it was a week that I wasn't playing against him.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll play against each other sometime soon, so I hope that continues to go on. And like you said, I hope that continues to be the game plan for the Bengals. I'm sure they'll start to incorporate something different, but good Joey B looks healthy. Hopefully smokes a few more cigars and enjoys life again. Well, now that I'm full of all those perfect pours, I do think we have a Week 5 recap, and unfortunately, we did not get picks from you, but you can go ahead and maybe defend the ass and his picks and his terrible picks from last week. Although mine were not much better. He went 5-2 or 2-5 last week, and I went 3-4. Not great, but the first game that we're gonna kind of recap here is Room 40 and G Train Rats. We talked about Room 40 a little bit already, but you want to start us off here?
Yeah, I mean, this is the matchup of the former reigning loser versus the 0-5 baby. So, this is, the trash bowl right now. And both of these teams performed up to the expectations that we had of them. Final winning score 86. And the Rats somehow pulled this off with Aaron Jones starting as their running back 1 with 0 points. We knew he was going to be out on the week. Achane is going to be going down, but Achane continued to perform, running back 3 on the year. Calvin Ridley found some success. DeAndre Hopkins found some success, but otherwise not a whole lot. I don't know that Josh Dobbs is the answer at quarterback, but it was better than Daniel Jones this week, but not by much. On the other side, Route 40, what can we say? You couldn't put it together this week. Unfortunately, some guys just didn't show up. Cortland Sutton, Dalton Kincaid, Derrick Henry really didn't show up. If you were a little bit different in some of these picks, if you had Marquise Brown or Kirk Cousins, you might be able to pull this one away. But yeah, unfortunate week for Room 40. Again, I'll say it again. I believe in this team, and I think that he's going to start putting together some wins.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Only, I think, point to add with that, Achane looks like he could possibly be out in the next few weeks with an injury, so that might benefit Room 40, actually, with Jeff Wilson coming off the IR here shortly. I imagine that G-Train's going to go to Daniel Jones or Deshaun Watson again at some point. I mean, they get Jerome Ford back on the lineup too, but it's probably not the same benefit that Achane is. We just need a lot more activity from G-Train. Is he going to pick up more than 2 running backs? I know that he was kind of put into a bind last week, or we'll make fun of him. I do understand his predicament with Aaron Jones going out super late, but gotta be more prepared for that in some sort of way. So yeah, tough beat for Room 40 this week, but I'm betting, and I haven't even seen the lineup for next week, but I'm betting he gets that first win.
Yeah, and I think that Room 40, with all the depth he has and the challenges throughout the league with running backs, he could make a pretty penny on a couple of his running backs. So I would get on the trade block if I'm Room 40.
Very true. Very true. I mean, there's definitely some teams that need some running back positions, and I'm sure we'll talk about them here shortly. Speaking of, with Team E-Dog and Victorville, again, we already talked about Victorville a little bit, not necessarily his team, but, Team E-Dog came away with that .24 victory. Congrats to him on that, but that was no benefit to Najee Harris and Dalvin Cook, and to the injury of Justin Jefferson, who's just got put on the IR. They're going to be hurting, I think. Adam Thielen's looked like a stud so far this year, and I know that Rachaad White was on bye, but really, is he much better? Not sure. I mean, if I'm E-Dog, maybe I'm looking to ship Justin Jefferson early. Could be a thought process. Victorville's relied on Tyreek Hill kind of carrying this team. It is kind of interesting to note that Victorville did start the Commanders' defense, who scored -5. And especially when you look at the 49ers defense on his bench, who scored 18. So definitely could still be 5-0. But as we know, this league comes down to management, and you got to start the right players. And sometimes it sucks when you have enough people on your team, or defenses on your team that could be starters week in and week out, and you just got to make the best decision, and sometimes you don't. And will that be a constant theme we see from either one of these teams?
Yeah, this is Vic's team's a story of bench points and points left there. So I mean, if he had Matt Stafford or even Hill or the San Francisco D, he would have won this matchup. It's a tough look for Vic. I love Vic's team. I think Vic has the potential to blow up every week with Tyreek Hill. Somehow Gabe Davis is always catching a touchdown. I keep thinking it's Gabe Davis is going to disappoint, but he always is catching a touchdown. And Vic is reaping the rewards. Yeah, Washington -5, tough look. On the other side, E-Dog, he put together a pretty good week for him. And in the words of the ass, defense and kicker win championships. He got 29 points as compared to Vic's 7. So that was a major swing on this one. I will say one of my biggest surprises on the year has been Adam Thielen. I can't remember when he was drafted, but it wasn't early on. He was drafted. Oh no, he was actually added from waivers by E-Dog, and he is wide receiver 10. So he put up 22 points this week, and he's been consistent there in Carolina. Jay Jettis is going to be out for, I think he's expected to go on IR, so it might be tough look. But yeah, Najee and Dalvin Cook this week just didn't put it together, but he got lucky from a couple of his other pieces to put up just enough to get the win.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to know. I mean, you talk about Adam Thielen. I don't know if you noticed that. You noticed he got added off of waivers, but he actually got dropped by Victorville. So, you cut one of your star guys that could have helped you out and comes back to burn you later on. So, sorry about that, Victorville, but props to you, E-Dog. Maybe he continues to do well for you as the number 11 receiver on the year.
Dang, that stings.
So just so you know, that Room 40 and G-Train, I predicted G-Train correct. The ass got that incorrect. Victorville and E-Dog, we both predicted Victorville, and we both were incorrect on that. So I have a 1-2 or 1-0 lead on the ass in predictions there. With Jay Jackson, Sir Cox-a-Lot, you did expect a little bit more out of both of these teams, although, I mean, it's still a pretty close matchup within 10 points. Arguably two of the hottest teams coming into this or week 5. What did you think about these two teams this week?
Yeah, I mean, Zach Moss on the bench, 32.5, could have helped Jax out a lot. I mean, I don't blame him starting Alex Madison and Khalil Herbert. Herbert's gone down, so there's been injuries in that Chicago Bears backfield, so we'll see what his running back room looks like moving forward. I think these two teams are two of the scariest teams in the league this year. Where Matt and Room 40 have been the bottom of the barrel, Sir Cox-a-Lot has been at the very top for the newcomers. So Mostert's going to get a bigger share of the load with Achane out, and then Adam, Devontae, Garrett Wilson, and another point to talk about. T.J. Hawkinson with Jay Jettis out almost gets a big boost there. So. I think there's a lot to come out of Sir Cox-a-Lot coming here. This was a close matchup, but I would have expected both of these teams to put up 100. But yeah, I mean, good win for Cox to move to the top of that division. And Jax, I think, will stay right there with him the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I know you noticed depth in the last matchup, but I think these two teams are really deep as well with options to play depending on matchups each week, really. Madison, Herbert, maybe not the guys consistently, and maybe Zach Moss and McLaughlin will continue to step off. McLaughlin looked incredible against a really tough Jets defense. With P. Ryan not doing much, I think McLaughlin is really going to be that guy. It's always fun to see rookies step up and do something. You mentioned earlier just about how CD was in the media a little bit this morning. You want to expand on that a little bit more for us?
Yeah, I did see. So, I thought Jackson had one of the best wide receiver rooms with Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, and Deebo Samuel all year. I did see on Twitter today that they asked Jerry Jones about should CeeDee Lamb be getting more targets, and he said, I don't know about that. So in 4 of the 5 games this year, CeeDee Lamb's only had 4 receptions. So I'm wondering if in a contract year they're really toning CD down, and it seems like there's not a lot of smiling faces on the bench over there in Dallas this year. So,
as people will say, like Dallas always looks like a good team. They always look like they should be in contention, and for some reason they always screw something up. And, I saw last night that more Dallas defenders were getting hurt too. So that defense is not as great as it was to start the year. Offense is in shambles right now. Tony Pollard's still not playing incredibly well. So problems in Dallas could mean more problems for CD. But you've seen when receivers or players, especially receivers, have complained and things have gone their way. Things have helped out. So yeah, I with you. I like both these teams. I'm definitely scared of both of these teams. Sir Coxlot has a great team. I appreciate two Michigan players. I'll say that every week. Every chance I can get to talk about Michigan. Jake Money Moody, I apologize, has made all 28 of his kicks this year. Scored 6 points this last week and didn't even have to kick a single field goal. So he's electric. That 49ers offense, electric. And really that Houston offense has looked pretty good too. So you got the two stars on the Houston offense. I'm scared of Sir Cox a lot. Just glad that I don't have to play them next week. And both the Ass and I both got that correct. So that, would be 2-1 my lead on picks. Speaking of Jordan Love and speaking of you, I know we already talked about your team a little bit. You mentioned earlier to me, I can't remember if we were talking on here, if we were talking earlier, but you were the third highest scorer this week, and unfortunately came away with an L to a tough Chicago Dogs team. And may I note that three of their players combined for, let's see here, doing math in my head quick, 2, 3, 4 points. He had three players combined for 4 points, still scored 126.72 points, and still beat you. That's tough.
Yeah, tough look. DJ Moore with the all-time fantasy performance. It was going to be hard to overcome that when that was on Thursday night, but God damn it, I tried. I tried my best. Kudos to the Dogs. We all got to lose eventually, so I'm happy it's to the Dogs. He put up a hell of a fight. Yeah, Miles Sanders and Roschon Johnson, a tough running back room. Dobbs couldn't get a look on Monday night, but it's not really his fault based on his quarterback's play. George Pickens finally had a great breakout, despite Matt Canada's play calling. And got a game-winning touchdown, which was great. I mean, this wide receiver room, George Pickens and DJ Moore really were incredible. He's got Austin Eckler coming back from a bye week, so watch out for the Dogs. But I'm going to talk a little bit about myself for a minute. Again, I'm really really big on my team. I love my team. I had great performances from George Kittle, from ETN, but also a really well-rounded performance otherwise. But one thing that sticks out in my head and was really kicking me this week was I saw a statistic about running backs from the 1 yard line this week. So who had an attempt from the 1 yard line, didn't score? Christian McCaffrey had one, didn't score. Joe Mixon had 3 and didn't score. So this could have been an entirely different week if those guys had gone in those couple times. But scoring 123 in this league will win you most weeks. But unfortunately, this wasn't my week.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I don't have too much more to add on what you said. I know you gave, and we've all given, Jordan hate, a lot of hate this week, accurately so. Thankfully, you had ETN do really well. Christian McCaffrey, I think you just depend on him for more than what he produced for you this week, especially when you see that they won by a score of 42-10. He was held at 2.7 yards per carry this last week. And this is the first week that he was actually held outside of the top 20, top 15 running backs. Every other week he's been inside the top 7. We hate on Jordan hates 3 interceptions, but McCaffrey did have a fumble that he lost as well. Those are 2 valuable points that could have benefited you at some point.
Yeah, I mean, those 2 points would have made a difference. Plus, that going into the end zone when he fumbled as well. So throw that one on the 1 yard line carries too.
So I think we reduce the Jordan hate, and we give that to Christian the Antichrist McCaffrey.
No hate for him. He's my man. Running back 1 on the year. I can't hate him. Hey, we talk about running back rooms. I'm gonna talk about mine quickly. I got running back number 1, running back number 4, and running back number 19, and I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, there's no doubt that you're tough. No doubt that Sea Dogs too. So I I think you guys are gonna have a good run. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So looking forward to seeing what you guys both do the rest of the season. And like we said, it comes down to management. So we'll see what happens. Unfortunately, the low scorer of this week, after we go from your guys' two high scoring games, we have Death of the PP losing to the Crawdaddies this week. The Crawdaddies, I guess, were joined by you in the Creek this week, but the Crawdaddies were able to come out with a win versus Death of the PP, who struggled. They struggled this week. You got one offensive player scoring over 10 points, and then you got your kicker as well. When your kicker is your second leading scorer and no one else scores actually over 8.3 points, you're going to struggle to do well. I feel kind of bad for the PP. They've already called their own death. I feel like I might have fleeced him a little bit on a trade, but sometimes that's the nature of the trade. I traded a consistent Brian Robinson who had a tough week, and Chris Olave, who did score his touchdown, was the third leading scorer on our team for Brees Hall and Jalen Waddle. He may have better weeks, but it's really going to depend on what happens in this quarterback situation. Anthony Richardson has looked like a stud, and the two games that he's played fully. But he's proven that the way that he plays may not be the healthiest way, and I think Death of the PP is going to really have to look for ways to combat that and identify if that's a risk that he wants to continue to play. We could even see maybe a trade of Jonathan Traylor or Travis Kelce soon to get some more depth for PP. Crawdaddy, a decent performance. David Montgomery, props to you. Props to what you thought David Montgomery could be, and really props to the Crawdaddies for getting by in their bye week with Amon-Ra and Keenan Allen both on the bench. Amon-Ra obviously hurt, and Keenan Allen on his bye week, but then he benched Joe Burrow and Tyler Lockett's on his bench. Like, that's a lot of potential points that he didn't have in a starting lineup that is going to continue to benefit this team. Does he go with Joe Burrow? Does he go with Jared Goff? A lot of questions here, but again, I just harp like David Montgomery has looked absolutely incredible. I should have known that. He's looked good when he was in Chicago the last few years as well, and the way that the Lions like to use that big bulkhead of a running back. I think they continue to do that this year, which is going to hurt me. But props to the Crawdaddies. Props to them for getting a big win this week.
Yeah, scary team, and he's been fighting for wins, so I'm glad he was able to get one this week. PP, man, it's a tough look, and Anthony Richardson gonna have surgery. James Conner going on the IR, even more so. It's gonna be a tough look for PP moving forward, and I do think he needs to make some moves. And he's been on the waiver wire, not on the waiver wire. He's been on the trade block. I've seen a couple trades from him. Sorry, my brother, I don't love any of them. So. Keep working. I think that you have some potential with Kelce and Olave and Brian Robinson and even Michael Thomas, Tank Dell. I like some of these pieces, but man, this is just a bad luck year for you, unfortunately. Tarkington Crawdaddies, scary team, especially knowing that St. Brown and Allen were on the bench too. So I think there's a lot of good to come out of this guy. Jacoby Myers looked great on Monday night. So Ty J. Spears is going to be a great pickup. I wanted him on my team, and he got a lot out of him in that flex play. So great looking team. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does for the rest of the year.
Yep. I picked the PP and got an L there, but the ass went with the Crawdaddies and tied things up 2-2 in predictions. Heading into the last two and heading into RIP Trayvon Diggs and Team Keegs.
Yeah, I mean this is a great matchup. Keegs being able to put up 97 and win was really good for him. He didn't really have anyone outside of Josh Allen, and this is week over week what we hear about Team Keegs' team. If Josh Allen shows up, he'll be there. So 27 from Josh Allen really carried this team. Next highest scorer was 12.6 with Darren Waller, which Darren Waller finally coming online a little bit is exciting. But other than that, he didn't have any incredible scores. He just had consistency across the board. So it was enough for him to get the win. And then on the other side of the ball with Rip Trayvon Diggs, look at these running backs. It's a tough look with Ramondre and Matt Breida. But with Kenneth Walker on the bench, hopefully he'll be able to do something moving forward. But also, I want to highlight, we learned about our wide receiver 1 and our wide receiver 1 with the Los Angeles Rams. So Puka and Cooper, they can do it. They can share the load. So 15 receptions for both of them combined, and then about 200 yards and a touchdown. So, kudos to him for putting them both in his lineup because it looks like it's going to work out. So.
Yeah, electric. You don't see many fantasy football teams work with 2 receivers from the same team. So, no proof that it's going to work so far, but Puka and Kupp both looked great, and that's even with Cooper Kupp not getting in the end zone this last week. So I think better weeks to come for Trayvon Diggs. He's shown in the last 2 years that he's a great manager, that he has the ability to kind of turn his teams around, although he hasn't necessarily had to turn his team around, but he has the ability to make a good team. I think that there will be better weeks coming, although, again, we've talked about it, and I know that Kenneth Walker was on bye this week, but, we got to get some good running backs into this lineup. Ramondre Stevenson and Matt Breida, they just are not cutting it. So we'll see what happens there, but tough loss for Trayvon Diggs, and an even better win for Team Keegs. Like, you definitely would not have expected this from Team Keegs going into this year. We all were down on his team going into the season. I think he was in that bottom tier. I'd like to note that Sam Pirine, I've not been super high on him this week, or all season, to be honest. And our ass actually dropped him recently, and he scores 9.5 points and outscores any of the asses running backs. So big pickup for Team Keegs with Javonte going down. And better than any of the running backs you had on your team as well. So props to you. Unfortunately, Tutu is not maybe the receiver in the Rams offense that you want, but Darren Waller looks like who the Giants drafted him to be after 4 weeks of absolutely just duds. So not great by either one of these teams, but Team Keegs had enough superstar from Josh Allen in London to make something happen, and I expect better weeks from Christian Watson. I expect them to feed him the ball a little bit more frequently than they did this last week. And Tony Pollard is not going to face the 49ers defense every week. So I think you can just chalk it up at that. Impressed with Team Keegs this week, but not sure if it's sustainable. And I really do think Trayvon Diggs maybe doesn't come back from his ACL injury, but he comes back to from the dead for this fantasy football team, and Chris ends up doing pretty well.
All right, and I think that means it's time for the it's time for the for the matchup of the week.
There's not a better sound than that, maybe besides our intro, but nothing gets me going better than that. So love that. If you would, Aaron, can you tell me how great my team was?
Oh, this pains me so much. This is such a bias that went into this matchup choice of the week. We have Commish versus Ass, and my God, Commish whipped out his dick, threw it on the table, and really let Blake know who's the fucking boss around here. I'm gonna highlight the Ass first, and then we'll get into you. The Ass actually had a overperformance this week, which is pretty funny. But it all came out of Justin Fields throwing 3 touchdowns to DJ Moore. Otherwise, Ass, man, it's a tough look. A.J. Brown did what A.J. Brown does. Didn't catch a touchdown, though. And Cole Kmet was pretty good as the tight end 3, but we're missing a couple pieces here. We need Saquon Barkley to come back. We need Amari Cooper off the bye week. So, Yeah, tough week for Ass, but Commish, man, 149 points, top scorer of the season. And it wasn't just a one player effort across the board. So Jamar Chase, 15 receptions on 19 targets, really carried the load with 44.7. But the Sam Howell play over Justin Herbert on bye, great pickup. Sam Laporta, tight end number 1. He could be the first rookie tight end to lead the league. He's tight end number 1 over Travis Kelce. And then Brees Hall, more like Fleece Hall. This was maybe the trade of the century here. 177 yards, got taken off of his snap count. Really showed that he's back after his hamstring injuries. So, Jaylen Warren, as much as you could hope out of him, that Pittsburgh offense isn't great. Jalen Waddle caught a touchdown, and then Wandale in the flex, 0.4 is nothing, but 149, man. This was a hell of a performance, and I know it's going entirely to your head. So keep that confidence up. I think this might be a fluke, but hell of a week for you. Live it up.
Oh, hell no, it is not a fluke. But you're 4-1, so you got to do whatever you can to keep your confidence high, and you don't want to think about these teams that are coming down from below. And I say teams as just in the wildfires that are ready to come in, and as the Jonas Brothers would say, burn it up, man. They're just gonna start burning things up. So yeah, I very, very happy with my trade in this last week. I do not expect Brees Hall to go off for 26.9 points every week, but I do expect him to perform really well. I think this Jets offense is turning around. I think there's some more buy-in. Zach Wilson hasn't looked horrible, and really that's all the Jets need is for them to not look horrible. The Jets defense, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I would imagine Jets defense have to be top 5 in the league. They're 6th, actually. So with a 6th best defense, you just have to be sustainable. And I would bet the Jets defenses would probably actually be better than 6th if they didn't have Zach Wilson throwing picks and putting them into bad positions. So I think as long as Zach Wilson plays well, you see Brees Hall continue to do well, run out the clock, and he'll do what he did on Sunday and just break big runs because he is an absolutely electric playmaker. Sorry, PP, but not sorry to have him continue to burn things up for me. Jamar Chase, he was who I thought he was and was who I drafted him to be. He looks good as well. Again, don't expect it every week, but very, very happy that his coming out party finally happened. I thought about trading him last week a little bit. Thought I could get some good leverage from him, but you did. And I am glad that I held on to him. Glad I made things work. And let it be known, you mentioned that, Laporta is tight end 1 of the year compared to, I don't even know where Kelsey's 4. There was roughly 150 picks between those two? I'm sure you get that number quicker than me, but yeah. So, sometimes you luck into things. Wandale, maybe not the best pickup, and maybe at some point I'll even move on from Justin Tucker, who has not been good. But welcome back, Justin Herbert, next week. I'm excited. I'm excited for this week, and really, I didn't expect myself to score 149, which might be the top 10 of all Draft Daddy performances, but I did expect to beat the amphetamines. Again, they have too much amphetamine in them. And sometimes that can be good to be productive, and sometimes that can be bad because you just run out of steam. He needs those XRs and not the IRs. So sorry, ass, but I'm not sorry. Someone's got to lose. Would be awesome to see you. Here's a question for you. Do you think that if it was Blake and Glenn in the Draft Daddy Classic again next year, but Blake has to golf his entire thing in a girl's outfit, do they win?
I'm gonna say that they do because I think Blake is a lot more comfortable in women's wear than we're getting.
That's fair. I like that. I like that perspective. He probably does wear the tightest jeans out of anyone in this group.
Hey, Ass here. Just had to chime in just for a second. I miss being on the pod this week, being able to talk about this great matchup. Props to Seb on knowing his stats. He finished, with the top, one of the top 10, actually number 10. So very neat. But I think you guys are maybe forgetting who edits this cast. So instead of like editing and chopping the last bit together, I think I'll just make one of your voices really high and one really low. So everybody enjoy listening to that. Love you guys.
Hey, I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Thanks for doing this thing. Thanks for being a recurring guest for us. And like I said, maybe not even a guest. Thanks for being a recurring co-host at this point. We appreciate all that you do.
Appreciate being able to be here. Do you wanna jump into some at our end here? Get some real brief, quick, all too soon projections for the rest of the year.
All too soon. Yes, let's go ahead and jump into these projections. For anyone that's listening, because I would think that most people probably listen to their own recap and then probably turn things off. But yes, we have some all too soon projections on who is going to lose the league, where everyone else will be, and who's going to win the league. Do we want to start in the middle or do we want to start on the bottom?
Maybe let's start with let's start from like 6 or 7, like maybe give like a top 4. Like so we'll save the top 4 for the end and say
So we'll do 5 through 10. You want to mark this?
You want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so let's get into some predictions. Commish and I wanted to just give you guys some quick perspectives on where we think everyone's going to land. So we're going to save the top 4 till the end. So we'll start from 5 and go down. Commish, who comes in 5th place this year for you?
My 5th place is Victorville. For you?
I got the Crawdaddies. And then 6th, who you got?
Well, it looks like 6th and 7th we actually are tied. 6th I have the Jacks, and so do you. And who do we have for 7th?
Looks like we got R.I.P. Trayvon Diggs for 7th place.
R.I.P. Trayvon Diggs. Sitting in 8th, we differ here by a good amount. Who do you have for 8th?
Mish, I got you, buddy. I'm putting you in the 8th spot.
I'm going to prove that I'm no longer the bottom in the 50th state, so have some respect on Hawaii's land. Unfortunately, I have the Crawdaddies, Tarkington in 8th place.
All right, and in 9th place, it's hard to overcome an 0-5 start, but I'm rooting for him. I'm putting room 40 in 9th place.
Room 49, room 9. We'll see what happens. I have Team Keegs in 9th place.
Okay, and in 10th, it looks like we are matching up again. Looks like we are both with E-Dog in 10th.
E-Dog in 10th.
How about your 11th?
Tough to beat. Yeah, we'll try to see who gets in that last spot. And just, obviously you want to be the winner of the league. There's a lot that comes with it, but you definitely don't want to be on the bottom end here. These final 4 teams are all hanging in the balance, and anyone could beat it. But yeah, 11th spot for me. We have room 40.
All right, yeah, these are the teams you got to watch out for. You don't want to be losing here. 11th spot, I got Keegs. Sorry, buddy. Reigning champ.
That's a big downfall. 12, I have the Ass himself, the Asheville Amphetamines.
Ass is looking tough. I'm putting our reigning loser, the G-Train Rats, not at the bottom of the pack this year, so he is in 12th. Not much of an improvement, but 12th in my book.
That is huge. 11th, again, it looks like we both agree. This person actually texted me earlier this week and probably texted the group as well about wanting to figure out a way to not be the loser of the league. We both have PP.
Yeah, PP, we got you as the runner-up to the loser. both of us. So you're just good enough to squeak out of last place for us.
And who do you have him beating in last place in that last matchup?
I unfortunately have bottom of the barrel, the ass, at the bottom of my list this year. So PP over the ass for
I cannot wait to see how angry he gets with that. But equally, maybe just as angry or angrier, I have the Rats repeating as the loser for the third year in a row.
Don't call it a three-peat.
I call it a three-peat. So we got the bottom of the bracket, but we will have some winners in this league. It starts off with number 4 for us.
Yeah, these are the ones that I really think are going to make some runs. A lot of them have incredible teams. So in fourth, I'm putting my co-4-1 daddy, Victorville.
Yep, unfortunately, I have him at 5th, but I'm gonna say, and you're gonna argue against me, I got you at 4th. TaylorMade sitting in 4th place here.
All good. I don't blame you. So in third, who you got?
In third, this may surprise actually a lot of people. I took myself in third. I don't know if you're surprised that I put myself that high or surprised that I didn't take myself to win it all. Obviously, I think there's some belief there too, but yeah, I took myself at third.
Yeah, it's character development to not have you in third. To have you even at third is that 149 points is definitely going to your head. I put my third place is the Sea Dogs, the Chicago Dogs.
Respectable. Considering we both have Sir Cox-a-Lot sitting in second. I don't know if we could have picked a newbie. I don't know if that went into our head about putting him at seconds, but yeah, we both have Sir Cox-a-Lot at seconds. And you have Sea Dogs at third. I have him taking on the ship. I think he's respectable. He's put together some good teams. I think he's got enough analytics, and I think he'll sue us if he doesn't win. So, Sea Dogs at first for me.
Great manager. Yeah, Kirby runner-up as a newbie in the league is pretty impressive, but you know how it had to end. You knew that I had to put myself at the top here. I might have lost this past week, but I'm going to say that Jordan Addison, wide receiver 1 in Minnesota moving forward. I'm feeling pretty good about my prospects, so I'm looking to take home the ship this year, so I'm going to predict it here and now.
All right, you heard it here first, everyone. Heard it here first. Aaron, TaylorMade, whatever you want to call him, he thinks he's winning the ship. I got Sea Dogs winning the ship. They're all too soon though, so anything can happen at this point. Regardless, we love you all. We appreciate you all. Thanks for listening to this incredibly long podcast. Yeah.
If you're still here, you better be smashing that like button. Comments down below. Give some love to the Commish for being back. Give some hate to the ass for being away. And give some more love to me for being here 2 weeks in a row. Because we know that
if you are still listening at this point, and I know that the app is actually going to edit this. If you're still listening at this point, I want you to comment the name of who has a bigger wiener, Glenn or the ass. And don't say bigger wiener, Glenn. Just respond after we post this podcast.
Nailed it. You heard it. Bigger wiener, Glenn or ass.
Love you all, daddies. Glad to be here. Glad to do this thing. See you soon.
Mwah, 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 mwah.